Crime investigators, what's the creepiest unsolved case you investigated that scares you to this day? Worked in forensics 2004 to 2008, mostly rapes, homicides, and cold cases. Never forgot one where a baby was abused because a burglar threatened to kill the entire family if the parents didn't do it. Wasn't solved before I left and nothing came up on Google. Never forgot names. The idea that someone out there free is that ducked up or that someone would make that shit up is so disturbing to me. Back in the early 80s, a 16-year-old boy was walking home from a party about a mile from his house when he was intentionally hit by a vehicle and dragged by the vehicle before being dumped in front of his house for his father to find his body in the morning. The police say they have suspects but not enough evidence to make any arrests. There are still posters all over the town and surrounding areas with his picture asking for information more than 35 years later. Really a tragic story that needs closure. I work as an investigator for the county medical examiner. The cases that always creep me out are the Gene and John Does, especially the younger ones. How could a family not report a loved one missing for 10, 20 or 30 years? Some of these cases are not suspicious, so it's not like the family is worried about going to prison. We're looking at forensic genealogy to assist with some of the cases. https://weird-news/Jeanette-De Palma/guy let his dog out and it came back with a decaying limb. When they went to search they found a makeshift altar. Creepy stuff. Someone was picking up drunk homeless people in my town, about 20 years back, beating them up and dropping them far from town during the winter season, which can last for about 8 months and drop as low as -45 Celsius. Someone killed 50 dogs and left them on top of parked cars for a year, then it just stopped. In a town close to me, a few years ago a little boy went missing. He was in a foster home with his siblings. There was apparent previous reports from neighbors of them wandering off frequently because they were left alone without food, breaking into garages I think. He was reported missing by the foster mom. She went on TV and everything I think I remember. There were so many search parties. We live in the desert so there's a lot of open land. I stopped hearing things about it. Eventually I asked one of my buddies who works in that PD and he told me they never got any real answers. They found remains years later that they believed to be his in a canal, but it had been so long not much was left. Also they think wild animals had probably spread what was left of the remains around after all these years. At my first department, someone was stringing up dogs in the trees behind houses with their throats cut and bled dry. Serial killer behavior, obviously just killing them to kill them. Worked on that case a couple weeks, but after 4 or 5 dogs, it just stopped and my bosses wouldn't let me work on it anymore with all the real crime going on. I still think it was a future serial killer practicing. Mystery was solved a few days after it happened but I figured I would share anyways. In the town I live in there's a rundown motel that all the druggies stay at. Well anyways there was a night that a man walked into and pulled out a sawed-off shotgun and blew the cashier's brains all over the wall. Stole $112 and some change. Obviously our investigation was opened and for 4 days they didn't have any leads or anything. Turns out on the evening of the 4th night they supposedly found the murderer behind the motel in a cornfield in a fetal position just rocking back and forth. A local girl went missing about 2 years ago. Whole community and neighboring communities got involved. Had a hashtag they painted on car windows and everything. Tried like crazy to find her. The parents still hold out hope, but I'm not convinced they really do, and it's devastating to watch. I have friends that know the family. I have 2 young girls, and this is a fear that my job forces me to take home with me, that one day they'll disappear and that's it. There are some sex trafficking hotspots nearby. A week after that girl disappeared, I told my wife she was most likely already dead. Not an investigator. In League City TX, there used to be a dead-end road. The city grew like crazy. In the process of clearing land they found dozens of girls buried. Still several unidentified. They stumbled onto the dumping ground for a serial killer. It's called a road if you're familiar with that area. They did a documentary on it at some point. My sister went to prom with a guy who lived next door to this. One night she is over at his house and a random girl comes running, no shows on, screaming, banging on the door saying some guy picked her up or was following her. Boys say the man was nowhere to be found. Prom date and brother get her to safety, then proceed to tell my sister all the weird ghost stories because weird things like that always happen around here. They thought she was spooked by feelings of being watched or something, until a few years later when they started finding bodies. Again edit. Reached out to my sister for full details. This is her story. Okay, so it was some girl from Angleton got in a wreck in front of the house by the field. She comes running to the house. No hot on. This girl tells them some guy was following her. He was trying to run her off the road. Blocked her car, forcing her down this road. Called her. The road was dark, she didn't feel right. She saw the lights on in their house. So she wrecked her car as she jumped out and ran to the back door. Boys got her inside, then saw flashlights around their house, which apparently happened often. Keep her inside long enough to feel like however was left, drove away, only to realize during all this she had been drugged. That's why she didn't feel right. Call cops. Man was picking up girls at a bar on NASA Road 1 and drugging them, so they caught at least one creep. Bodies were found there from the 70s till I think 2000s. Fun fact, she tells me that apparently now there is a subdivision over these killing fields. Two girls in their 20s round murdered in their car, McDonald's food in their laps, windows up, doors locked, no sign of a struggle. Was my last case I ever worked 3 years ago. No suspects have been arrested. Someone had been leaving half-eaten fish all over West London, as encounter bought fresh fish, scales and all. It was an ongoing cold case cause the saliva was the same on each one. No one was really victimized by it though, so we never got a chance to properly look into it. The 35-pound bags of human vomit that appeared in the PKG lot of the Radnor, Par Bed Bath & Beyond. For a few weeks, the woman on Philly walking to the Acme MKT, who thought someone ran by and hit her accidentally. She shopped for 30 minutes at Acme, then walked home and her daughter discovered a chef's knife lodged in her neck. No one at Acme said anything and the knife was visible on surveillance. There's a man who comes into the bar I work at every day around 4 p.m. He's nice, has a group of other guys he socializes with. His wife comes in every Sunday with him for football season. Their daughter went missing a few years ago. They had a suspect, who my older sister actually dated for a short period. When they couldn't definitively connect him to the case, they cut him loose. He's now serving time for a completely separate kidnapping murder. He hasn't confessed to the first one, so the couple will never really know if they caught the guy. Everyone just assumes. I don't think the family will ever get closure off of an assumption though. The Molly Bish case. A 16-year-old girl was dropped off for work at the lake where she was a lifeguard by her mom. She was never seen again. This happened in the summer of 2000 in a small town in central Massachusetts, about 30 minutes from where I grew up. I remember seeing missing person signs all over local business when I was a kid looking for Molly. I'm not an investigator, but this happened to a little girl in my brother's class and a friend from school. My friend was a happy-go-lucky, chubby guy that everyone liked. He smoked a little weed from time to time, which made it hard for him to keep a job. One day he goes missing and is found in his barn swinging from a rafter by a friend of his. Suicide note. No ladder or any way for him to have gotten up to the rafter. No typical signs of depression or suicide such as saying goodbye to loved ones, taking care of loose ends, etc. Gets written off as a suicide. Case temporarily closed. 6-year-old girl was missing from her home in the morning, found in the barn hanging from the rafter and raped, molested with a knife. Stepdad had porn of her on his computer and somehow was cleared on the murder by penning it on a teenage neighbor. Neighbor kid claimed stepdad put him up to it and smoked weed with him, but there was no evidence to convict and the teenager went to jail for murder while stepdad got a reduced sentence for child porn. Neither got a drug charge, which was also weird. The reason I mentioned these together? Stepdad was the friend who called in my friend's death. After no luck with the county, I anonymously messaged Channel 5 and they had to reopen after it was reported publicly that they missed something. Forensic analysts said the suicide note was faked. Suddenly the detective on the case finds there was a ladder present. Ray closed the case and retired. Dude got away with murder. twice in one case and once in another. I'd consider both unsolved till the right guy goes down for them. Hinterkaifeck murders 1922 Germany. Creepy sounds in a barn and an entire rural family is slaughtered, including a maid who had just arrived. Evidence at the scene showed that the killer had stayed in the home for several days, lit a fire, and fed the animals. Nothing valuable was taken. All the people going missing in federal parks. FBI does not track them. Guesses are 1,600/ disappear and some are not found. It happens at an alarmingly high rate compared to other places. My father was a police officer some time ago. While in school his platoon was called with every other policeman in region. A kid was missing. They were looking for him for quite some time, yet they did not found him. He was supposed to be somewhere in small forest near the town he was living in. Kid just sunk. After some time people would contact police and say that kid was seen almost 500 kilometers away, alone. They had many suspects but all got their alibi. The case was open for almost 20 years and was closed like 10 years ago. We'll try to find some info about it, edit post, but here in Poland we do not put such information to public. Not a crime investigator, but I had a good buddy that went missing in a cornfield when he was a 2-year-old kid, back in 1980 or 81. Literally thousands of volunteers came out to help search the fields and land around his farm for 2 days, but he was nowhere to be found. They even brought in a psychic. His parents were so desperate. On the 3rd day he was finally found, quite some distance from where he disappeared. His parents still think to this day that he was abducted, but because of all the media attention and people searching for him, the kidnappers returned him, pretty much just dropping him off and hightailing it out of there. The case of Missy Bevers, murdered in 2016 as she waited for the arrival of her yoga class. There's video of the suspect in SWAT gear as they're leaving the scene, but they've never been caught. Source: https://www.insidition.com/family-mourns-mother-stab-bludgeon-death-3-years-ago-508229. Not a criminal investigator, but I do CPS joint investigations. We'll never fully know what one little girl went through as she was very young. She's doing very well now, but she had nightmares for years of a big gray man that would come into her room at night. Horrible case of sexual abuse. Really shook me. An Israeli girl, Tyarada, was murdered in her school's bathroom, and this one guy, Roman Zdorov, was convicted, but DNA evidence has shown that someone else committed the murder. You can read more about the case here. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/murder_of_tyre_rada. Why the actual shit am I reading this at 3 a.m.? Not a crime investigator, but Dara Waking went missing about a decade ago and was found in boxes. It is estimated that she was cut up into around 2,000 pieces. When they put her back together they were missing a heart, spleen and liver. My personal theory is black market organ transplants. To sell or to use I don't know. Maybe to sell because the heart sells for around $1 million USD on the black market. Not me, but my dad told me about this. On the Gold Coast in Australia in the 1990s, there was a Chinese mob. The wife of the leader wanted a new husband and boy toy. The following is all presumed, but she got people in the mob to kill him. She then presumably cut him up with a garden saw. This is based off of neighbors' reports of a chainsaw at 1 a.m. for long periods. It was presumed that she put the body in gym bags and put it next to the bin. A teenager saw the bags and wanted to take them, but he kicked the bags and it was squishy, so he decided not to. When she reported her husband as missing, she was the prime suspect. The police found the bathroom covered in blood using UV light. The body was never found, so it could never be pointed to her. She was convicted on assumptions due to her already affiliation with the mob. She gets released next year from a life sentence. Edit. Newspaper clippings my dad put together. http://imgur.com/gallery/5A10TQI. On my town we found a dead body by the middle of a street. A good neighborhood. Never figured out who was this person since nobody ever filed a missing person for him. Creepy part, he was beheaded, and the head was inside his stomach. The Philly Burb suburban bomber case. Multiple pipe bombs in bedroom town Foho Honixville par 3 years, never solved. Not so much scared, but as someone from Chicago who loves our unresolved mysteries, the Max Headroom broadcast signal intrusion, https://en.wikipedia.org/max_headroom_broadcast_signal_intrusion, has always fascinated me. It's been over 30 years and we still don't know who was behind that bizarre video. There was a thread, https://old.reddit.com/r/i-am/comment/ib6e/i_believe_i_know_who_max_headroom/ A while ago of someone that thought they had figured it out that seemed very possible, but it was updated and they were ruled out as suspects. Here is the infamous video, https://yahoo.be/ocjm6rwskw, for those that have never seen it. Obligatory, not an investigator, but this one happened in my province when I was but a wee child and I've thought about it ever since. Mindy Tran was raped and murdered in Kelowna at 8 years old, and as far as I know it was never officially solved. Edit. It always scared me as a kid, and even a teen, since I was only a bit younger than her when she died and I was afraid to go to parks alone for a long time. https www.reddit.com/r unresolved mysteries comments/4j0nar1/ the disappearance Mindy Tran UTM source equals amp and UTM medium equals and UTM content equals post body. Mindhunter got me weirded out about those Atlanta child murders. The Petros killings. It's not really scary for me but more like crazy. Also it's not really a crime cause it was done by the government itself, or should I say it's actually an anti-crime act done secretly by the government. Edit. Well, if I live in those days, that event probably gonna scare the shit out of me. I mean, every day you found a dead body purposely placed in public with a hole in their head symbolize that this is what you got if you against the government. Really new to Reddit so don't know how to edit original post, but I spoke to my sister. This is her story. Okay, so it was some girl from Angelton got in a wreck in front of the house by the field. She comes running to the house. No hot on. This girl tells them some guy was following her. He was trying to run her off the road. Blocked her car, forcing her down this road. Road was dark, she didn't feel right. She saw the lights on in their house. So she wrecked her car as she jumped out and ran to the back door. Boys got her inside, then saw flashlights around their house. Keep her inside long enough to feel like however was left, drove away, only to realize during all this she had been drugged. That's why she didn't feel right. Call cops. Man was picking up girls from a bar on NASA Road 1, drugging them, then taking them or following them to killing fields. Murders were happening there from the 70s but police didn't find out until the 90s. Fun fact, she tells me that apparently now there is a subdivision over these killing fields. The unsolved case of John Bennett. She was a little girl who was murdered in her home and the case was never solved. Not one myself, but this case shocked everyone. Girl went missing, pregnant at the time, 36 weeks. Police interviewed everyone, the boyfriend, the other boyfriend, friends, mother, neighbors, etc. Body was found almost a year and a half later, on a shed, not 100 yards from her house. The killer tied her up and buried her alive, all the while she was on labor, then covered her with concrete. When found, the baby was halfway off the birthing canal, head already out. Case is still ongoing. They have a suspect but there is still a couple of years away from anything concrete. This one was pretty local to where I grew up, but someone found a bloody Santeria dagger on the steps of their apartment complex. People were pretty freaked out and this was a heavy Mexican Catholic area so it got some attention, but there never was news about why, and the rumor was it was a crazy homeless guy who lived in the area who disappeared after it was found. Yes, the Texas killing fields. One theory was it was a truck driver picking girls up and dumping them since it's so close at I-45. OP, this is definitely one of those posts that you use the serious tag on. Nicole Simpson. The case will never be closed and the family will never see justice. Everyone knows who did it, but we have to let him walk free. I'd say that is a really unsettling fact. Not a crime investigator, but the older brother of someone I went to high school with disappeared in August of 2017. He had gotten into drugs, went to rehab, and was trying to rebuild his life when he went to Maryland to visit a friend from rehab. When he got there, the friend had made other plans but sent him to hang out with this other woman in her 40s. He was not allowed at the woman's house, so she drove him to a piece of property her uncle owned, left him there to detox without any food, water or shelter, and claimed she would be back soon. She left him there for 3 days, claimed to drop off supplies, but his parents have their doubts about that. When the parents came a week later, he was gone and the woman claimed to not know where he went. A couple months later his body was found over 100 miles away. His death is being investigated and I believe the state is building a murder case against the woman. I will be following when that happens. Very sad story. If anyone wants to Google it, his name was David Gibson Smith. RAWW, if you've been reading through a lot of these, remember to self-care, everyone. We had a neighbor who killed cats by decapitation and put them in the owner's mailboxes together with a note. He did this more than 50 times. When they found out who it was, they found that he were planning to kill a person and got a couple of years in Yale. He now live alone in a forest somewhere and cannot show himself in his hometown cause everyone know who he is. I don't work in crime investigation anymore. I do animal rescue. But we kept receiving animals found stray that had been sexually abused with sticks and we had to take them in, help them recover and find new homes. It happened for 2 years straight, then nothing. He's either dead, locked up or moved on to humans. Police have DNA but no one has ever been caught or linked to it. There was a case here in Washington state where a young woman was assaulted and murdered. It took 30 years to get the guy. 20/20 just did a story on it. Very sad case as the dude was living in the same neighborhood all this time. It took a co-worker to help police get his DNA. The Toynbee tiles. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Toynbee_tiles. Not scary, but ducking fascinating. There is a documentary that has a lot more interesting info. Ryan and Shane have hit a gold mine here. Huh? My friend's mom is a lawyer and she was involved in a case where a teenage girl was raped and murdered in the woods outside a small town with a military base nearby. The person who did it was never found, but a teenage boy was wrongly imprisoned for a few years. There are conspiracy theories that a military officer did it and the government covered it up. I saw a play about it with my friend's family, but I can't remember the name of the town. One of the investigators wrote a book about it that was pretty popular a while ago. A boy in my town went missing maybe a decade ago. He disappeared out of school without a trace. No camera footage, no evidence. It's like he simply vanished. His stepmother's story has never added up, and everyone knows she killed him and buried him on a nearby island. But they never were able to find him or prove it. He is still missing, and she is still free to walk the earth. Kyron Horman. https://en.m.wiki/disappearance_of_Kyron_Horman. A girl in my town went missing this year. There was several theories running around and I managed to get some info because I'm a nosy bastard. They obviously suspected the boyfriend, someone twice her age, married and a very strict Muslim. She was in her late teens, white and was either an atheist or Christian. Learned a family member has a restraining order due to conflict. It's suspected to be an honor killing or she's been taken out of the country to be trafficked. I've read and learned about trafficking in the Middle East. It makes me hope she just ran away or she was killed. It's better than living through that. This sounds like some PTSD. That's why I don't wanna be a crime scene investigator, but power to those of you who do. Someone's gotta do it. not an investigator. The campers that died at Dyatlov Pass. I'm convinced so far that it's a terrifying reminder of how hypothermia can affect the brain. One of the people threw themselves in their own campfire. Some survived long enough to experience the sensation to burning, which hypothermia causes in its late phases, and took off all their clothes before dying. It's officially an unsolved case, but the general consensus is that hypothermia is to blame to the nearly unexplainable crime scene. Not an Leo investigator, but the Elisa Lam case at the Cecil Hotel in LA has always given me the creeps and cringes. To this day, I'm mildly paranoid of public buildings that have water storage tanks like this hotel. Creepy enough the mysterious circumstances of her death. Crazy cringes that people were bathing in and drinking that water. People T. Soy length 20. It's the stuff of nightmares. https://allthat'sinteresting.com/Elisa-lam-death. Christine Jessup made everybody around go crazy with fear. So my town had the mad pooper. I don't even remember if they actually caught the lady who was shitting on everyone's lawns. Then someone was leaving dildos all over town. But for real unsolved cases, check out the Burning Barrels case. https://www.kkTV.com/home/headlines/293268849.html. From my hometown. Now, this town has like 400 people and the people that live there are either fantastic or barely human. We've had quite a few weird murders and missing people and even some alien abductions. People are nuts. But the Burning Barrels case is very real and hasn't been solved to my knowledge. And just based on the zero resources that county has, I doubt it will get solved. Spooked the hell out of me as a kid though. Well, I saved and upvoted in case this gets some responses. Not an investigator or anything like that. Back in 2016, I visited Oregon for the summer. There were these posters almost everywhere called Bring Caleb Home. My grandma soon explained that 5 years ago, a boy just disappeared. The security tape showed that he exited the school bus with a bunch of other kids and his head just disappeared within the crowd, and that was the last anyone has ever seen of him. He had a lot of family drama going on at home. Some people think it was paranormal what happened. Poor kid was probably only 5, I think. I've posted this before, another throwaway, but here it is again. I'm not in law enforcement. I was a firefighter. Back a half a dozen years ago, I paged out to a call for a member of a hunting party that had gone missing. This was a volunteer department outside of my day job, and I headed out with a probie, new firefighter, to a hunting camp. Hunters go missing all the time, so I didn't think too much of it. Most of the time they just lose track of time and turn up by a road or something. We get there, and there's 3 men looking very shaken. I talk to the sheriff deputy, and he tells me the men keep saying they got him and something about being in the trees. It's already nightfall by the time we get there, so we do a drive-through but no dice. Over the next few days various groups do SAR parties, but the hunter is never found. I didn't think much of it until I talked to a buddy of mine, in a neighboring department. A couple years later, we were talking and the events of that night come up. He then tells me that 2 of the men in that hunting party had committed suicide, and the 3rd had been in and out of rehab ever since. To this day, as far as I know, the 4th hunter hasn't been found. When I was serving during OIF, I spent most of my career investigating, collecting datasets and creating a new army-wide SOP for detecting, avoiding, randomizing and route planning for IEDs. Much of it was classified and still is. Essentially we ended up focusing on EFP-type IEDs, which for lack of a better explanation use an annealed copper disc that forms a projectile on the pressure front of the explosive material during detonation. Hot knife through butter was the understatement, and in northern Iraq was the de facto casualty-causing weapon on coalition forces. Our team was able to find an unexploded EFP in early 2005, and a better version of one in 2006 with a mass manufacturing signature, machine marks, similar mold witnessing etc. I suppose now nobody would be surprised to find out Iranian nationals were manufacturing and then transporting finished EFPs into northern Iraq. The border is pretty big and was not actively monitored since, other than 2 roads, It was essentially a desert or farm field expanse. I don't want to drone on, but we chased an Iranian back to the border. He somehow escaped detainment. Again, corruption was very bad, and had taken a car from Qudizza, about 5 kilometers from the border across to Pain, which is in Iran, a little mud hut farming village because of its proximity to fresh water. I can't really describe what it's like to know you had a guy trafficking the most dangerous weapons we would ever encounter as far as effectiveness and frequency, and missed him simply because you were manning a different checkpoint further up the road towards Mosul. By the time we could hit the vehicle, he was on the Iranian side. Part of me wanted to re-enlist in 2009 to cycle with another unit and get another chance. He was coming into Iraq with more than 100 EFP devices. We missed what I think now would have been a political shitstorm, especially since we were actively doing biometrics on everyone we detained for any length of time. Our intelligence agencies might have discovered more to that picture I would not be privy to. This is something that haunts my life. To spend so much time zeroing in on the source and knowing that for years to come he and his handlers continued to bring EFPs and other manufactured explosives made to look like bricks, blocks, and other building materials right into Iraq, against coalition forces and later against the Iraqi army and the Kurds. A guy driving through my town jumped out of his car randomly and has been missing ever since. The story still gives me goosebumps. To my knowledge his remains haven't been found, so him and 2 buddies are in the car driving from Florida to Greensboro, NC. They stopped off in Benson, NC off 95. And the guy driving just stopped in the street off the highway, got out and started running, allegedly. No explanation why. They allegedly were not even traveling to people they knew in Benson. Really strange and scary for such a small town. Everyone knows everyone and nothing scary or inexplicable like that happens. They searched for him for a long time and nothing ever came up. My best guess is some drug deal gone wrong. Maybe they were meeting people out here for something. But why was his body never found? It's 11:38 right now, and after reading a few of these comments I'm scared. No serious tag. Gonna be a wild ride, folks. Not a crime investigator. Found these. https://www.reddit.com/r/nolep/r/nolep/3ix1h/underscore/underscore/the_https://name_equals/share_and_the_score//underscore/officer__the_score for__the_score the_score US_score for__the_score the_score stories I thought were fake. Just good horror stories. Then I found David Paulide's missing 411. https://yahoo.be/oeow12binda. Descriptions of missing persons reports all over national forests, and they had some scary real similarities. This could be the most elaborate hoax that ever existed, or there could be some scary shit going on deep in the woods of NA. Zodiac Killer. I once visited a city that was in the middle of a serial killer spree. Young women were being killed and mutilated late at night, their bodies just dumped in the middle of the paths to be found the next morning. No one had any idea who was behind the attacks, not even law enforcement. The city was in the verge of widespread panic. With the help of a few connections in that city's law enforcement, I was allowed to begin looking into the murders alongside the current investigation. We eventually traced the scene of the murders to an abandoned house in an upper-class section of town. When we broke in, the scene we saw will haunt me forever. Most of the house was pretty dilapidated, but there was one room concealed behind an old wardrobe where the murderer conducted his horrific crimes. There was blood all over the walls and floor, with buckets of it around. The smell was horrible. There was some sort of altar, smeared with blood, and some sort of amulet, which I can only guess at its purpose. Safe to say, this was the worst scene I have ever come across in my entire career. I was pretty wrecked after this, and ended up leaving the city without seeing the investigation conclude. The last I heard, though, was that they had actually caught a killer. Some guy named Calixto who owned a museum of sorts in the city and had been trying to conduct a necromantic ritual.